everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Talking Cardboard. As always, I'm your host, Brian. We've got John to my right, Corey, and Kayla on the end. This episode, we are going to be reviewing Roll for the Galaxy. I'm not smelling the bar.
It's for YouTube.
It does. It smells like feet.
For YouTube.
Alright everybody, here we are with Roll for the Galaxy, all set up for a 3-player game. This won't be a complete rules explanation of the way to play the game in its entirety. This will just be a brief explanation of how to play the game, just to give you the general idea. So at the start of the game, all the players choose one random 1x1 tile and one random 2x2 or 2x1 tile for a total of 3 tiles, and you place them in front of you. This will show you additional dice you start the game with, along with the generic dice you initially start the game with as well. Alright, so at the core of this game, the gist of it is that you're looking to get the most points by the end of the game. The game end is triggered by having either 12 tiles in front of you. That'll trigger game end. Everybody gets one more turn when that happens. Or if these allotted victory point tiles run out. That'll trigger the last round of the game as well. You start off with 12 victory point tiles per player, so in a 3-player game you've got 36 victory points up for grabs here, and every player starts off with 3 tiles out of their 12 that they're going after as well. So that is how the end of the game is triggered. Throughout the game, you start off with some dice in your cup, some dice in the citizenry. You're looking to add dice to your cup to roll them out to do various actions. You've got 5 different actions as depicted out in front here on these tiles that you can do throughout the game. The first one is this eyeball here, that's explore. Second one is develop, settle, produce, and ship. So those are the 5 different actions. All the dice have the different symbols based on those actions as well. And some of the sides of the dice have a star symbol, which is a wild symbol, and you can use that as any other symbol that you choose. So for example, if I were to roll these out, it'd be behind my player screen here so nobody else can see what I rolled. But in secret, I would choose where to place the dice on my small little player board here. So for example, I would choose one of these symbols to be my main action, and I would place it on the personal player board here, and the rest of them would have to be placed beneath the player board as basically a sub action. Alright, so let's say my main action that I want to do on my player board is settle. I would choose the die that's showing the settle symbol, I would place it on the settlement here, and I would get to choose where the rest of them go based on their symbols. So I've got a produce that I could put underneath. I've got an explore underneath, and then I have a star symbol. Let's say I wanted to put that underneath settle to give it a little bit more power there. The star is wild, so I can go ahead and do that. And then once all players have done that, they reveal by flipping over their player screen here. And all the players that have chosen their main action get to flip over these tiles. So they start off all crossed off here, like so. And for example, because I chose settle as my main action, I would flip the settlement. Let's say the blue player chose settle as well, so that stays the same. And let's say the green player over there chose explore as their main action. Only the main actions that were triggered are the ones that you will be able to use for that round. So that's a very unique mechanism in the game. It's real neat how those are the only actions that are triggered. So throughout the game you are trying to guess, pretty much guess what other players are planning on doing along with your main action itself to piggyback off of other players to basically maximize the amount of actions you can do. Obviously if the other players didn't choose you know, actions that you put your dice underneath as your sub action, then those won't get triggered. For example, my produce die here did not get triggered, so that would go back to my cup here. But so then we go in order from 1 to 5. So the first thing we do is explore, and I did have a die in my sub set here, so I can explore. Explore either gets you 2 credits per explore. So I could go up to 3 credits there, which you can use to buy additional dice in the future to your cup. Or if I didn't want to take the credits, I could use that explore to take this black bag here, and I could explore however many dice I've got shown below here. So I've got 1 explore die, I can explore 1 tile out of the bag, draw 1 at random, and I can choose to place that either on the development side for the diamond, or the explorer side, or the settle side, excuse me, for the planet. And that would go on my little build spot here. So after choosing to explore that one tile with my explorer die, that goes back into the citizenry, that I would have to spend money to get back to my cup later in the future. You don't automatically get dice back to the cup. The only dice that go back automatically are the ones that are not in use. But the ones that do get used go back into here that you have to buy with your credits to get back to your cup at a later time. The next action, if that were triggered, is development, which is this diamond that builds towards these diamonds here. So for example, if I had a diamond under the develop, I would get to place that onto this development here, and basically this says that once you get 3 developments on this tile, it is built, and you get to place this out in front of you, and you get to benefit from that ability for the rest of the game. Next is settle, which I've got 2 dice underneath my settle here. I had the initial main action settle, and I had this star as a wild option, so I could take both of these settlement dice and place them on my world here. And because those 2 dice fulfilled the 2 icon at the top, then this world would be built. So that we build in front here. These would go back to the citizenry, and I would now have up to 5 tiles here in front of me. These tiles have different abilities. For example, gain a novelty, which is the blue die into your cup when you place this world, so that's a little nice benefit. Not only is this the cost to build with that number 2 there, but it's also the amount of victory points you get at the end of the game for that number as well, so that would be worth 2 victory points at the end of the game. And the fourth thing that can happen is this produce action here. Let's say somebody chose that as their main action, so this was flipped over, and I had, let's say, one on my subset here that I could use to produce. This would go on any of the production settlements possible, not the development diamonds, but any of these settlements that have a color to it. So this blue world here, I could place production on it, and now I have a blue good on that planet, which we can get into a little bit later here with shipping. So the final thing you can do is shipping. It's the 5th thing that could happen. With shipping, you can either ship off goods for victory points, which is explained here on the player board, which I won't get into completely, but you can get anywhere from 1 to 3 victory points depending on different checkpoints that you're looking for on that. Otherwise, you can ship it off. Let's say, for example, because this is a blue planet, it is a blue good. If you ship off a blue good, looking at the player board here, blue goods are worth 3 credits. So I could ship this off for 3 more credits here, which I can use those credits to buy more dice back to my cup in the future. So that's about the gist of it for Roll for the Galaxy. And let's get to the table and hear our final thoughts.
And before we begin, because we're going to reference this a whole lot, this game smells bad. It might just be this copy, but for whatever reason, there is a funk in this box.
It's not just me, it's the box.
Yeah. Something wrong with the smell of this box. So if you open your box and it just smells bad, maybe that's a con for the game. We don't know. Let's start off on a positive note. Since, Corey, this is your game, what's some of the pros of Roll for the Galaxy?
I started off actually playing Race for the Galaxy back in the day, which is the card version iteration of this game. And in my opinion, this game really took it by the horns and took it in a whole other direction in a good way. Roll for the Galaxy, you've got dice that you're rolling out, being able to do different actions with the dice that you rolled. So that really cut down on the downtime to the game. And I mean, I love this game. I mean, hand over fist compared to the Race for the Galaxy version of the game.
Now, Caleb, we're going to get to your pros last because we know you love this game because you usually win it. So, John, what are some of your pros?
I like this game a lot for its thematic sense of it, like what you're trying to do. I mean, you're trying to explore new worlds, you're trying to develop these new technologies, and you're all just doing this by rolling some dice, and the dice come in different colors. You got like red dice or your like military dice, and they focus more on either settling worlds or developing new technologies. So you can either take these different strategies of going like heavy military to make points and hoping you get planets and tiles that proceed to like toward that goal, or you can like kind of differentiate between all these different colored dice, and then you have a good balance. So I think that's kind of cool.
Yeah, and going off of that, one of my pros is your individual strategy reveals itself pretty quickly, that there's a bunch of different ways based on your starting tiles, your starting resources. If you can catch on to the way that they're going to work together, you definitely get your engine rolling quick. So with this game, always different ways that you can play it, always any of these two can work together when you're starting off. You just have to figure out what's going to work best for you. And speaking of working best, Kaylor, what are some of your pros for this game?
I really did love the theme also. I find when I play this game, I try to get as many different dice as possible, and I try to play towards whatever I roll, and I end up ending the game sooner than later, as these guys know, and they say usually I win, but I don't know if I'll say that that's true or not.
I think it is. Usually a race to the finish.
You've accidentally won a couple of times.
So yes, that is very true. Because I just play with what my dice give me, and I usually end up getting a bunch of colonizing planets, which ends up ending the game.
What really turned me onto the game itself, I'm more of a mechanism-driven guy when it comes to games, and the mechanism or the mechanic where you're choosing one of the dice to be your main action, and then having the other dice formulate kind of your subset of actions just in case another player chooses that action, is what really got me into this game and just loving the game.
And there's so many levels to this game where you could, like Corey says, figure out what everybody else's engine is, so the way that they're trying to play, and then what actions they're going to prioritize, and then play off of that. Or you can do a smaller version of that and just think, okay, what's my most important action, and what are the other actions I would like to have happen, but that I don't want to throw all of my energy into, and then just kind of hope that other people are playing for that. So this game's got many different levels of strategy, and thinking deeper strategy doesn't always give you an upper hand to try to win. There is some element of luck with the dice. I know for the most part, we talk about that as a neutral, where any dice game there is a certain element of luck, but with this one, when you can be changing certain results, or you can be combining them to be making wilds or stuff like that, it really helps mitigate or get rid of some of the luck action that is inherent with rolling dice. So John, what are some of your, do you have anything neutral you'd want to add to this game?
Kind of a neutral towards con kind of thing is kind of the fact that, like Kaylor was saying, you can kind of just rush right to the end by just building your worlds, because once someone gets to 12, it's over. And just because they got the 12 worlds for facilities first doesn't mean they win. I mean, there's still points that can be gained during the rounds, and sometimes it takes a while to set those up, and if you're not paying attention, someone's already at their 12th world, well, it's like, oh, missed out on points, or they might even lose because they ended it too early and people actually were making points. So sometimes I feel like you need the time to set these things up, but...
So John's neutral is Kaylor, the embodiment of Kaylor.
And I would like to point out...
You're my con, get out of here.
I'd like to point out, for the sake of everybody, so you're not a jerk, you need 12 worlds in order to cause the end game. Please have them stacked in rows of 6, and not rows of 7 or 8.
Not one down the shirt, the other in the pocket.
Yeah, so that everybody else can see how close you are to the end, and you don't just accidentally win.
Oops.
That's why he thinks it's a quick game, because he doesn't realize he's already got 11 worlds.
Yep.
Love it. So, Kaylor, I know this game is really easy for you, but what are some of your cons?
Well, like they said, I feel like I have ended it too soon based off of my rolls. And yes, the one time I did not put the tiles up properly. Yes, I admit that. But that was new. And since then, I fixed that.
And I want to point out, he does apologize when he ends it too soon.
Yes, I don't mean to.
He's a good-hearted guy, for the most part.
Like I said, when I play this game, I always just play the rolls I get. I try to utilize as much of the rolls I get, and it ends up I end up colonizing a bunch of planets, usually is what I end up getting. And the nice thing about colonizing planets, though we didn't touch on this, is that you do get special abilities with certain tiles that you do get that will help you along the way.
Yeah, I guess kind of a con going along with that about getting the special tiles is it does take up a bunch of resource in order to be able to add to your stack of what's going on, not even put them in your colonized groups, but having an opportunity to work towards that. I've just noticed all of this, it's a balancing act, but I feel like there's a little too much investment you have to make in even choosing what you want to be colonizing or working towards. And then it slows down your ability to be adding to your world that you're building together. So John, what are some of your cons?
Do you have any cons?
Nothing really. I don't know. I think it's,
We'll get to that later.
I don't have any cons, really. I don't know.
Good. Well, then let's have you contribute something.
I don't have anything to contribute.
Well, in terms of the replayability.
Replayability. High. I mean, there's tons of different strategies and worlds that you can take advantage of with their special abilities to pursue different goals to gaining points and winning the game. So I've never been bored with anything. There's like 10 starting worlds or something that kind of start out with one ability that kind of helps launch you towards a strategy, not necessarily something you have to follow, but
agree with that. I think around the horn, the replayability is very high. It's so diverse. And more than just the dice roll where you don't know what's going to happen, there's a luck value to it. There's just so many different combinations of starting, and then based on that, if you can work your strategy, even a few different ways within how you start, so many different avenues this game can go. What do we think about the depth of the game?
Yeah, medium to high. I mean, there's definitely some in-depth strategies that you can go into. I mean, just figuring out how all the dice and the tiles tie into each other and what can you combo. I mean, that's really important. What like engine can you build up to generate points or production? So
I would agree with that. I think we're kind of jumping out the gate thinking it's a mid for the complexity or the depth. But if you really think about it on an overall scale, maybe for people who play a little less games, I think it's more of the mid to high. There's a lot going on if you really think about it, with all the different variations. And
that's just paying attention to your own stuff, not even worrying about what your opponents are doing, because you're not going to notice what combos they've set up until probably it's too late.
Right.
That you can take it on different levels. One, you're just trusting the luck of the dice and seeing what it is from there. Another is you're trying to manage your resources and what you're doing. And then after that, there's the meta game where you're trying to figure out what other people are doing and counteract that or work with that. I mean, when we go to the thematic elements of it, it is very space related. A lot of the things you can do, the planets, the different options you have, you can get into it and really make each one of your galaxies, your series of planets that you're colonizing, your own. And what do we think about the skill level? Kaylor?
I think that there's definitely a lot of skill involved with playing your own and playing off your opponents. I definitely think that. I think the luck, of course, it's being a roll game, there's definitely a high luck factor to this.
Yeah, I would think it's high luck, depending on the level of skill you want to have. You don't need to have the utmost skill level to win this game. Sometimes all you need to do is just...
fact and point.
Yes. You just need to go quickly through what you're going to do, and in the game quick, when you have enough, or what you deem as enough victory points, and if other people are just immersed in what they're doing, or they're getting sluggish with some of their dice rolling, that luck factor, that you can just run through it really quick with whatever skill level you want to put into it.
Yeah, I might be the minority online saying this, but I kind of disagree with these guys about 75% of what they said. I know there is dice rolling in this game, but unlike some of the other American-style games we've reviewed before, I think the dice can be mitigated. It's more tactical when you've got the dice in front of you, showing the different symbols. You can kind of make what you want out of the dice in front of you, or at the very least, I know it's more involved to think this way, but if you're looking at what other people are going after, you might know what dice they're locking in for their action, so you can throw your dice underneath to piggyback off of that. So I think there's more skill involved than you guys are giving credit to, but maybe not.
I agree with Corey. There are a lot of tiles that let you move dice around from what you rolled, and realizing when to use those and like make them a part of your production and your technologies that you can use. I think that can really change how you play the game.
Some of the planetary actions allow for that too.
Yep. So,
and then that adds to the depth of it. The weight of it is knowing how each one of those planets work, how you can maximize that. So that's, I mean, it adds a lot of skill to it, but that skill isn't required in order to win.
Yes,
that's true.
You can just be lucky.
That's true. I agree. That's my 25% I agree with.
Yeah. Well, good. So as the one who always teaches the games, Corey, what's the teachability of this?
I was just thinking back to that. So we've played it at least a dozen times, and thinking back to the very first time we played this game, oh man, it was a while ago. I remember it being difficult to teach. Really difficult to teach. So kind of to piggyback, or kind of to segue off of the depth or weight of the game into the teachability, I think I get caught up in trying to teach more of the strategy side when I teach games too, and I just kind of fall on my face every time I try to teach it that way. But there is a lot going on in the game. There's a lot of different, just from having the player screen in front of you with all the different notes on it that you have to keep in mind alone should tell you that it is a difficult game to grasp.
There's a lot of symbols that initially seeing them and not knowing what's going on are very difficult. You're just like, what is going on?
Yep.
But once you've played it, the symbols start to make sense, and I mean, you only need to play it a couple times to understand what those mean. But if there is a big barrier right there, like the initial look, it seems intimidating.
Well, I think the core mechanism in the game is a little bit intimidating too. Like, people don't tend to understand that, you've got your main action that you place on your little board in front of you, that but those other actions that are kind of sub actions could
still
happen.
Yep.
Well, how could they happen? You have to explain it all, and still it doesn't make sense half the time. And then the different points you receive for shipping off goods off of your planets, if you're matching the ship color with the good color and the planet color, or if you're not, there's different variations to the amount of points you get for that too. It could be a little bit hard to explain, but like John said, once you get it, you get it.
Yeah. So what do we think overall? Kaylor, start with your overall rating, 1 to 10.
I gave it a 6. I really do like this game. It's something you can pick up, play. But I find out that working together or working towards goals and trying to anticipate the other players can really work against me when I play this game.
Does it hurt your brain?
Yes.
And it bothers the rest of us when he still wins.
Yeah, right.
I gave it an 8 out of 10. I love this game. It's definitely high up on my top 100 list of all time. It's right up my alley. I know I say that a lot, but with this Euro style, different mechanisms and trying to figure out what to do with what you have and kind of paying attention to other players, I think it has a little bit more of that paying attention to other players than most Euro style games. But yeah, definitely a solid 8. I love playing this game. Anytime people bring it out, I'm usually willing to say, sure, let's do it.
Minus sniffing the box, of course. So
minus sniffing the box. It would have been a 9 if it wasn't for that.
Yep. John, does that affect your rating at all?
No, not really. I gave it a 7. I think some of these really in-depth Euro games sometimes detract from me. I think there's too much going on, but for this one, I really like the different strategies that are available. You do have to worry about what your opponents are doing, but usually there's not really anything you can do about their combos, so it's more you're back to worrying about yourself and just trying to maximize your dice and get the points you can based on your own tiles. So yeah, 7.
And I'd probably go an 8 or an 8.5. The smell of the box does detract.
Half a point.
Yeah, half a point. And also thinking about playing this with non-serious gamers, I know my wife would not, she would have no desire to play this game, which takes away a little bit for me. You need to have a solid group of people, or these guys, in order to really get into this and be able to work through it. Because for me, it takes a long time each turn, and I know that wears on them, but if it was people who weren't really invested in it, I know that it would just not make the game fun for everybody.
The other cool thing to scoot the game along is when you're done doing what you need to do behind your screen is we put our cups upside down, and he's the last guy to usually put his cup upside down. So
yeah, we got 3 cups upside down, and then I'm still waiting for what I'm going to do with mine.
Go make a sandwich and come back.
He hasn't even rolled the dice yet. That's the problem. Well, you guys rolled dice already now.
Okay, but that's because you guys are moving too quick.
That's half the battle. It's a 14+ age group game because you need to know how to roll the dice first before you make your decision.
And not stick them up your nose. So,
yes.
awesome. Well, that is Roll for the Galaxy for us. We're Talking Cardboard. Follow us on Twitter at Talking Cardboard. We like building the community, so we suggest games. We let you know games that we're playing. A lot of the other people that we follow or groups we follow are even more in depth with this gaming community. That's what this is about. Is getting together with friends, getting together to teach new people games. We love doing that. And one last piece of advice before we go. You can legitimize any hobby as long as you say you're filming it for YouTube. Take care.